I'm going to be honest. I never would have thought we were getting another solo Wolverine movie after X-Men Origins Wolverine was so horrible. I thought they wouldn't touch Wolverine with a 10-foot pole unless he was standing next to another X-Men character. But here we are with the Wolverine. I mean, even the idea of this film turned me away when I first heard about it. Like, they're making another X-Men movie that's just about Wolverine by himself. This is going to be shit again, isn't it? Oh, well. I'm going to be honest, I do kind of regret not seeing this movie originally in theaters when it first came out, because it is a good, fun movie, but I'm going to say I don't think this is a necessary film for the X-Men franchise. This is a fun movie, don't get me wrong. This is very fun. Very fun, very quick, very, somewhat important later on to things that happen, but no, not overall important to the X-Men movies as a whole, especially with the reboot that comes after this movie. Anyway, let's talk about the plot. Released on July 26, 2013, this movie was oddly enough released about 1 or 2 weeks earlier in the UK regions, which is interesting. The story takes place after the events of X3, surprisingly, with Logan traumatized after killing Jean with his own hands, despite the ending of X3 being somewhat more triumphant than, depressed Logan. Logan receives a message that an old friend of his from World War II, because, remember, Wolverine's very old, is dying, and so he has helped to Japan to be by his side in his final moments. There, his friend, Ichiro, tells him he can transplant Logan's healing factor into himself, thus allowing Logan to die and achieve peace. However, Logan says, no, that's kind of dumb, before he's attacked by ninjas, and forced to go on the run with his healing ability repressed for one reason or another. All the while, people plot and scheme to steal away Logan's healing factor and create a great weapon. So ultimately, what makes this film work? Well, honestly, seeing Logan grapple with the idea of dying is a big plus, as well as keeping the plot very simple is another gigantic plus. No big revelations or plot turns, well, outside of the obvious revelation we all see coming about who the main villain is. But outside of that one, it's a pretty simple, straightforward movie. Logan's on the run, hiding out in Japan, no foreign country, all that stuff. He's being attacked by ninjas. Movie done. Now, aside from that, the whole idea of Logan grappling with the idea of his own death is also pretty interesting. He's really depressed over Jean's passing and wants to do something, anything to get over it. He's really trying his hardest to get over his heartbroken trauma, but he's not really doing it in any reasonable way. It's interesting to see Logan on his own and struggle a bit as he starts working through some form of a healing process. Ironically, because he starts healing from Jean's death after he almost loses his ability to actually heal himself. Also, the plot of people going after trying to steal superpowers is something that just sounds awesome. I would wonder if this wasn't a more common thing, like there was some secret black market of people trying to steal powers from various mutants, and why they haven't tried to attack the X-Men yet. Especially considering that there are at least 3 or 4 X-Men who are considered the strongest beings on the planet. I mean, Storm could literally control the weather. Who wouldn't want that plot? Who wouldn't want that power? I mean, in the comics, they kind of touch on this with a pill that grants people mutant powers for a limited time that is also highly addictive, so we use for evil. But, then nothing like this appears in the films. It's just, a simple machine that can transfer powers from a mutant to a normal person. Despite the fact that it raises so many questions about how genetics and mutations work in this universe. But we will hand wave all the science just for this movie. Overall, seeing this post X3 Logan is interesting. But you always have to wonder how many times he can get jumped by ninjas. I mean, I get it, these are ninjas, but it's almost comical to a certain point how many ninjas they just keep throwing at him. I mean, you see an entire village of ninjas at one point, a bunch of ninjas on the train. It's like ninjas. Like, dear God, how many ninjas are running around Japan? Like, are they all at the Wolverine right now? Really? And yes, the inverse ninja logic is in full effect. Though ninjas are highly ineffective as a group, But as soon as there's about one or two, suddenly Wolverine has difficulty taking them on because movie logic. And yes, he does cleave through a bunch of ninjas. And the final boss being the Silver Samurai is also pretty cool. I do like his look here as he's in this sort of robot, super robot kind of looking style with this whole adamantium bodysuit thing. It is a pretty cool look, making him look big and imposing and all that stuff. One more comment is that there's some foreshadowing for what happened later in the movie Logan, which we may talk about later this year. And the internet won't shut up about it, but honestly, I don't think it was intentional because of the reboot that happens in the next movie, and because Logan doesn't seem to take place on any previous X-Men timeline. Like, it's really confusing where Logan takes place in terms of the X-Men film movies, because it apparently takes place after the end of certain timelines, but not really, so it's its own movie on its own timeline. So how is this character seeing into the future from a different timeline? It gets confusing. I will say this is a fun movie. And the last one we get before the major retcons that I mentioned before, that we start getting into with, the next thing to come. For a Wolverine Goes to Japan story, which is something that every canon of X-Men for some reason has to do, this one ranks among one of the better ones, although most of these stories are pretty much the same. Wolverine goes to Japan, gets attacked by somebody, falls in love with a chick, gets attacked by somebody else, ninjas, ninjas, ninjas. Yeah, pretty much all these Wolverine Goes to Japan stories almost always in the same way. You'd think he'd start learning to avoid that place.